everybody, Dr. Nelson here. This is an interactive video lesson about scale copies, and more particular, using scale factor to solve for unknown side lengths of scale copies. All right, so what's going to happen is you're going to take notes with me. So whatever I write down on this page, you copy down, and then you have a chance to pause the video and then try some problems on your own, and then at the end you can see how you did. All right, so here's the problem. It says triangle XYZ is a scale copy of triangle ABC. So here's our X, Y, and Z. So we know this is a copy. So let's put C here for copy. And this must be the original over here. All right, so again, the larger triangle is a copy of the smaller. And we want to determine the values of E and F. So here's E. So notice E is the length of side XY. And here's F, and that's going to be the length of side BC. So we're solving for these two lengths. All right, so step number one, to solve for either E or F, you must first determine the scale factor. So please write down scale factor right here. And what you probably learned in math class so far is the way you find the scale factor. I'm going to write SF for scale factor. All right, involves a ratio where on the top you have the copy value, and on the bottom you have the original value. So what we need to do is we need to find two sides that are corresponding, right? And then make the ratio out of those values. So take a look at these two shapes here, right? The two sides that look like we have information for are the bottom parts, right? So we know this is 2/3 and this is 5/6. So in order to get the scale factor, I need to do 5/6, and I'm going to divide it by the original value, which is 2/3. All right. So now to divide fractions, you know you have to do keep, change, reciprocal, right? So that's going to be 5/6 times 3/2. And now I can cross reduce. So this is going to be a 1 and this is going to be a 2. So now 5 times 1 is 5. And 2 times 2 is 4. So we know our scale factor is going to be 5/4, or we could say 1 to 1/4. But I'm going to just keep it as a fraction, make it a little bit easier. All right. So now in order to solve for E, we need to use the scale factor, all right, to solve for E. So notice E is right here. And we know that 4/3 corresponds to E. And notice that as we go from this shape to this shape, all right, the shape is getting larger. So to solve for E, we need to multiply the 4/3 by the scale factor, which we said was 5/4. All right. So again, when we go from the original to the copy, we need to multiply. All right. So let's do that. So we need to do 4/3 times 5/4. And when we do that, I can cross reduce the 4's. So they become 1's, right? So 1 times 5 is 5. And 3 times 1 is 3. And 5/3 can be written as 1 2/3. So that's going to be the value of E. So E is 1 2/3. All right, we're halfway there. Now what we want to do is we want to solve for the value of F. So we're trying to figure out the value of something called the hypotenuse, right, of this right triangle. So notice when you go from the copy to the original, notice how the shape's getting smaller, right? So instead of multiplying, we're going to divide going this way by the scale factor. All right? So instead of multiplying, we're now going to be dividing. So to solve for F, we divide. All right? And we're going to divide 5/2 by the scale factor, which again was 5/4. 5/4. There we go. All right. So we need to do 5/2. And we're going to divide that by 5/4. And again, we're going to do keep change reciprocal. So it's going to be 5/2. And we're going to multiply that by 4/5. And now I can cross reduce the 5s. They become 1s. And then the 2 and the 4 can reduce because I know 2 goes into 2 once and 2 goes into 4 twice. So 1 times 2 is 2 and 1 times 1 is 1. So our answer is 2. Okay? So our value for f is going to be 2. So one more time to summarize this. To solve for e, we had to multiply 4/3 by the scale factor. To solve for f, we had to divide 5/2 by the scale factor. So those are the two major operations you need to know. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and try the your turn now problems. And when you're done, hit play. You can see how you did. All right, good luck. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you do this practice problem. So it says triangle QRS is a scale copy of triangle EFG. Determine the scale factor. Then determine the values of x and y. All right, so this again is going to be the copy, and this is going to be the original. And to get the scale factor, again, we need to do the copy value divided by the original value when we have two corresponding parts, right? And for this one, I know that GF, which is 1/4, corresponds with SR, which is 3/4. So I need to do 3/4. That's the copy value. And I'm going to divide it by 1/4. And when I do keep change reciprocal, we get 3/4 times 4/1. And notice the 4's cancel out, right? So 3 will be on the top and 1 will be on the bottom. So our scale factor is going to be 3. All right, so that's part number 1. Okay. Now we want to solve for, how about x? All right. And just a reminder, remember, when we go from the original to the copy, all right, we always want to multiply by the scale factor. So multiply, all right? So we know that 1/3 corresponds with the x. So to solve for x, I'm going to write x here. We need to multiply 1/3 times the scale factor, which is 3. And the 3's cancel out to 1's, right? And so we're going to end up with just 1, all right? So 1 is the value of x. But now to solve for y, we're going to do the opposite. Because again, notice we're going from the large shape to the small. So we're now going to divide going this direction by the scale factor. So divide. And 1 2/3 corresponds with y. So it's going to be 1 2/3. And we're going to divide that now by the scale factor, which is 3/1. And I'm going to make 1 2/3. I'm going to write that as 5/3. So 5/3. And then I'm going to divide it by 3/1. And then finally, keep change reciprocal. So 5/3 times 1/3 will give us 5/6. Oh, excuse me, 5/9. So the value of y is 5/9. All right, how'd you do?